Afternoon, everybody. This week I'm joined by Jeff Hathhorn, if I pronounced it right. He is
You got it right.
He is the sports director of 93.7 The Fan in Pittsburgh. Jeff, good afternoon, sir.
What's up, Daniel? How are you?
Good. Went to your city 2 years ago when we played Pittsburgh.
Well, you had a happy ending.
Yes, it was. And I have to tell you this. I was very impressed with Heinz Field. In fact, the guy that runs church down here that we go to, he's a big Steeler fan, by the way. He grew up in Pittsburgh, as a matter of fact.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yes. He talks about the Steelers a lot. The only thing I couldn't get was a terrible towel up in Pittsburgh because they told me you have to have that at least once. My buddy's a huge Steeler fan, so just so you know.
Yeah, you got to get at least one, and you can't use it in the bathroom either.
That's what the father at my church told me.
You can't use it in the bathroom either. It's got to be something you use only at a game.
No, absolutely. Somebody told me I was at Heinz and I was asking what would it be like for a Steelers game. This lady told me, and his were her words, you could not even get into Heinz for a Steelers game.
Yeah, it's it's a little different now all over the place with
before COVID, I'm talking about, obviously.
Yeah. But I know people that have families on waiting lists.
Wow. Right.
You're just waiting. And there are a couple places like that. Green Bay, I'm sure, is very much like that. There are other places, but it's pretty special. Football, it means a heck of a lot in this area.
Oh yeah.
And obviously, Dan Marino is probably a pretty, hopefully, good example.
You know how much I love Marino. I always have a soft spot for Dan Marino. One of my favorite players. I still have his jersey to this day.
And by the way, condolences to the Marino family. He lost his sister 2 days ago here in Pittsburgh. So prayers out to Dan and his family.
Yes. Very, very sad note on that point. Yes, most definitely. About the game tomorrow.
Yeah.
I read about Pat Narduzzi. He said this week that they would be knuckleheads if they weren't ready for this game, especially a team that has beaten them 3 straight years like Miami has since that 17 when we went up there number 2, and Pittsburgh had the bad record and Pittsburgh got the win, and Miami hasn't been the same really since.
So Narduzzi, was asked a question. Basically, what we've seen from Pitt is what you've seen from a program that's around 7-8 wins a year. Inconsistency. You see it followed up by what you need. So when you get the big win over Clemson, almost immediately.
Even a down Clemson team this year, by the way.
Yes. Still a lot of talent. And for here, anytime you beat Clemson, I don't care what their record is. That's a big deal now, especially in the ACC. So,
and especially the way they've been to the playoffs the last couple of years.
Right. And so there are some good feelings up here about that. And, again, almost immediately, a lot of fans were like, well, let's see how they follow that up. Or can you stay focused for 2 weeks in a row? Is it going to get to these kids' heads? That, hey, we're the bomb. We beat Clemson. We don't need to worry about anything else. And I think that's what he's referring to. Like, he is drilling it into his guys' heads during practice. In fact, we could see it. But when they go out, when they're on campus, when they're in their apartments or dorms or wherever, are they thinking that they're all that, or are they focused in on Miami?
Yeah, the thing with Miami, we were 2-17. It's almost like a role reversal. It's now that Pittsburgh's the team that's ranked and Miami isn't. In 17, we were number 2 going in. And then Pitt wasn't ranked, and Pitt wanted it more than Miami did that day.
Yeah, I remember I was down at the game, covering the game 3 years ago. I guess it was the 24-3 Miami win. It was 2018 because it was the follow up to what happened in 2017.
That was a hard one, by the way.
And that was that was a well played defensive game by the Hurricanes. There are some players, obviously, that are gone from that team. But, man, that was an impressive defensive line that Pitt didn't have answers for. I think what's different now, in 17, Pitt got lightning in a bottle with Kenny Pickett. He just happened to manufacture a win. Everything fell right for Pitt that day. But the difference now is Kenny Pickett is a legitimate Heisman candidate given the other quarterbacks in FBS right now.
Yeah, and given last year, he did not play in Hard Rock last year in that 31-19 win. A 31-19 win by the Canes last year at Hard Rock.
Right.
And the thing that another thing I noticed when I watched when I heard Narduzzi was the tight ends. The last 3 years, the tight end has actually killed Pittsburgh.
It's a thing up here. The Steelers often get burned by tight ends, and so do the Pitt Panthers. But this year they've been very good at it. They've adjusted. They got burned by the RPO against Western Michigan. Since that point, they've done a lot better job. Now, they haven't run through the better teams in the ACC, but again, Clemson still has a lot of talent, and they were able to do a good job defensively there. Granted, against a Clemson team that's struggling offensively, but that's still a concern. And one of the things that Narduzzi mentioned actually yesterday was his worry about wheel routes and the use of the freshman tailback for Miami. And Knighton making plays.
Yeah, Knighton's the guy that remember Miami lost Cam Harris this year in late knee injury against Carolina. And Rooster's was off a suspension, and he's done well the last couple of weeks. But now you say, like you said, the wheel route has been an issue. Do you have to worry about? They said this. Narduzzi said, and I quote, "We got a talented Miami football team coming in here, coming off a big time win against a talented North Carolina State team." He's coaching his tail off down there. Of course, being our coach Manny Diaz, and who by the way, has been on the hot seat all year down here, and everybody wants his head, especially after the season they've had. But the one they really are going after is our athletics director, Blake James.
Listen, at Pitt, they've seen it. Narduzzi, I was trying to think the other day about how many coaches it's been since the Panthers had a legitimate Heisman candidate, and I think that was 5 coaches ago.
Wow.
So, we know about it. And of course, one of those guys is Dave Wannstedt that you guys are very familiar with.
Yes, we are very familiar with Dave Wannstedt.
So we know about coaching turmoil. And I'll be honest, after the loss to Western Michigan, man, there were some Pitt fans that were ready to be done with Narduzzi, but winning every game since and having some convincing wins is, if not stemmed the tide, has probably turned some people back into his favor.
Yeah, the thing is, tomorrow, like you said, consistency has been an issue with Pitt teams in the past. Do you get the sense that they've turned the corner this time?
I get the sense that for the first time since maybe Rod Rutherford was quarterback in the early 2000s.
I remember that.
Certainly Alex Van Pelt or Dan Marino were quarterback. Pitt has the quarterback advantage. Almost in most big games, Pitt never had the quarterback advantage. They might have a better defense, better defensive ends, linebackers, better running game, with LaShawn McCoy and people like that, Curtis Martin.
Yes, Hall of Famer, by the way, Curtis
Right.
Martin.
So, but now Pitt has the rarity where every matchup that they get in, Pitt's got the better quarterback. And it's an experienced quarterback that knows the system and the game is slowed down for him, and he's got some offensive weapons. So I think that's what's really different. I don't know if they've turned the corner as a program as far as overall talent, but when you have a senior quarterback playing at this level, you can win.
50-year senior at that, too, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. And here's the thing, too. Mark Whipple is an old NFL coach. He's a college coach, too, but he was an NFL assistant.
Yes.
His system, it takes time to fully grasp it. There are some offenses you could go right in as a freshman and have success. Now Pickett knows what Whipple's thinking, and for the last year and a half, they've finally been on the same page. It's just taken that kind of time to really gather that information and be able to use it, and you're seeing the fruits of it. I mean, we had some offenses for a few years that really struggled, and it is a whole different ballgame right now with this Pitt offense.
Yeah, I'm thinking now on a wet track. And now I went there too. I went to Heinz 2 years ago, and it was raining. It was raining, and it was a wet track. Tomorrow they're saying a wet track up in Pittsburgh, if I'm not mistaken. How is that going to play into into protecting the football and coming into the game?
So it's about 50-50 rain at this point right now for tomorrow.
Okay.
And it's the debate you have, right? Who has the advantage? I do believe that offensive players do have an advantage in that they know where they're going, especially running routes. But the defense has the advantage because it could be a ball that's tougher to catch or tougher to throw, or if there are wind gusts, and it's fairly windy today. We'll see how that plays out. But I think that plays into the team with the better ground game. Now, Miami's shown that have capabilities. Pitt has too. I mean, the last couple of games, they've run out the clock. They did so against Clemson. They ran out the last 7:53 just running the football.
Wow.
And
I mean, Clemson couldn't stop the run.
They did a similar thing against Virginia Tech. However, Israel Abanikanda, who, in my opinion, is their most talented overall running back, is coming off concussion.
Wow.
And it is unknown whether he will play. And same with their top receiver, Jordan Addison.
Addison, yeah. I read about that with Addison.
And he's a 10-touchdown guy this year. And while Pitt has some other good receivers, they don't have anybody like Jordan Addison. So those will be two game-time decisions that could factor big into this game.
Yeah, if Addison can't go and Abanikanda can't go, what does that do to Pitt's offense if both can't go?
Well, so Abanikanda is not as bad, in my opinion. And I say that because they've had this three-headed monster at tailback this year where they've used different guys. Vincent Davis is smaller, but he is not afraid to run up the middle and has breakaway speed, ran for 260 against Georgia Tech last year. And this kid, Rodney Hammond, who's really intriguing, he had a 100-yard game earlier this year. He's a true freshman.
Yes,
he's not a big guy. And, we to win, and he was asked something about being on this type of big stage, and he said, "Nobody scares me." Like, he's got this confident demeanor, and he's got the look that you want, and the coaches love his attitude and his demeanor. But the reality is, he's only played in a handful of college football games in his career, and if this game gets close, it's a whole different pressure for a guy like that. But what we've seen has been impressive. They also have a fullback named Daniel Carter, who used to be a tailback. He's a big guy. Yeah. He could fill in as well, but Abanikanda is the most dynamic. He can do it all, and he's got a lot more size than Davis or Hammond do.
Yeah. You mentioned the receiving game. If Addison can't go, that hurts. If that hurts.
Yeah, I mean, trust me, Addison's going to play in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
He is an absolute lock to play in the NFL. They have Tayseer Mack, who is a transfer from Indiana, and he's been there for a couple of years. He's a good player. Jared Wayne has done some nice things. He's a tall receiver out of Canada, a guy that can make some plays for you. So they have some options. Jared Barton is the guy who's going to fill in. He's a younger guy, and you never know about those guys, especially in these type of matchups. And then there's a Florida guy in Shockey Jacques Louis, who's from the other side of the state, who would love. I've talked to him a couple of times. We didn't talk to him this week. He's one of those guys that every school that didn't recruit him, he's got that chip on his. I know he is geared up for this week to play against Miami.
Now, I noticed 2 years ago up at Hines, the reason Pitt lost is because they turned the ball over 3 times. And, Miami made them pay for those mistakes. What is going to be the key? What are your keys to this game tomorrow?
Well, turnovers are always a big one, obviously. And Pickett's thrown 1 pick so far this season. They haven't fumbled the ball hardly at all this year. Their ball protection has been outstanding. I go to the offensive line. They've been good. If they can control the line of scrimmage and keep that ground game going and keep Miami's speed from mixing some things up, allowing Manny to get creative defensively, that's where I look at for them. And then for Miami, same thing. Like, if they can get Knighton going and they can take pressure off Van Dyke where he doesn't have to make every throw, he just has to make a few throws. I think he showed
it against NC State last week. He made a clutch throw to Will Mallory that sealed that victory for Miami. But the thing is, the running game's on a sloppy track, like they're saying tomorrow. protecting the football is going to be critical, and running the football is going to be vital.
Yeah, and I think Van Dyke's a gamer. Narduzzi loves him. He offered him out of high school. Of course, he chose Miami.
Yes.
He did some things in watching that NC State game that were very impressive for a freshman quarterback. Now, again, weather conditions, not just rain, but sometimes the wind can get a bit swirly inside of Heinz Field. We'll kind of see.
I'm aware of that.
How that plays out. And this thing too, Pitt's kicker, he's perfect on field goals this year, but he's missed, I believe, 3 extra points. He's brand new. They had a kicker there for 4 years. So this guy's never had to kick a game-winning kick. And Sam Scarton, who knows how you react until you get into that situation.
Are you concerned that if it's close, could the kicking game be an issue? I'm sorry about that. Hold on a minute. Hold on. If the kicking game is if it comes down to the kicking game, is Narduzzi confident that Pitt can win this ball game?
Like I said, Scarton hasn't missed a field goal yet, and he's had to kick a couple to at least keep drives going, especially against Clemson last week. Sorry.
Yeah.
But he's a sophomore who's never had the pressure of having a game-winning kick. So I think until he has those situations and has success in those situations, I think that's always a question mark with a young kid.
Yeah, we had that a couple weeks ago against Virginia. Andres Borregales, whose brother, by the way, was a Grozer Award winner last year, hit the upright against.
I'm going to say, I recognize that name.
Yeah, Jose Borregales' brother, older brother's in the NFL, though he's not kicking right now, but he was a Grozer Award winner last year. And his brother Andres is the kicker for Miami. He missed the field goal that would have won the Virginia game. But basically, Andres Borregales, I think I would trust in a big spot if it's close.
Yeah, and I think, and I'll mention this too, I think for Pitt defensively, they play man. Like there's no fooling anybody. Like Pat Narduzzi is very aggressive. Yes. He puts his corners out there on an island and says, go. And Mathis, I think, has pro potential. Marquise Williams can be hit or miss. And he's a smaller guy. He's only 5'9". So when you play that kind of press coverage, if Miami gets a running game going, and Van Dyke, because of that play action, you have to bite on play action. He's got some time to throw. There have been opportunities against those Panther corners. I know that Rambo is I don't know how he is at high pointing balls, but I know he's had a good year, and I would imagine that they're going to take some shots and give him some opportunities to make plays.
Yeah, Rambo's our best receiver. I mean, he did well. He's had 4 touchdowns this year, and I remember, and he's had 44 and 4 TDs, and he had, I think, 1 or 2 last week. But yeah, we have playmakers, but Narduzzi did say this: Manny runs that defense down here.
Yeah,
Manny runs that defense here.
Pat Narduzzi's similar boat. Former defensive coordinator, very highly thought of assistant that got his first head coaching job, except it wasn't at the same school. It was at Pitt. And he has a lot of respect for Manny. He talked highly of Manny Diaz during the week. And he kind of knows he's going to get that aggressive type of defense. And I think Narduzzi comes from the same cloth. They both like to be aggressive, play downhill, and you know what? You give up a big play, but they're not going to use a Mike Tomlin quote, they're not going to live in their fears. I don't think either coach is. No,
I think we're not going to do that. I think for me, like I said, my keys tomorrow is, like I said, protect the football, give Van Dyke time to throw, get the running in going, especially on a sloppy track, on the windy track, but also get the tight ends in there. Because like I said, the last 3 years, that has hurt Pittsburgh, the tight ends.
Yeah, and I'm going to give you a name to watch. Okay. It's Kalijah Cansey. He's out of Northwestern High School.
Okay.
And he was not recruited by Miami.
Wow.
And he's excited to play in this game. He knows a lot of Miami players, whether he went to high school with them or just knows them from the neighborhood. But he's really coming on. He's only 6 foot 275, but he plays that middle really well. And if we'll see how what inspiration does for him in playing against Miami. But that's a name that you may not hear a lot about, that you might hear about coming up on Saturday.
Yeah, and I've always said it's going to be in the trenches. The battle, Jeff, is going to be in the trenches. I think whoever wins that battle is going to win this ball game.
And Pitt, to this point, they've won every battle. They've got seniors across that line, and the one that isn't a senior is a junior who's played a couple of years, who was recruited by everybody out of high school. So they've got everything. Is I'm not going to say that I don't know what Pitt will do, because you just don't know how a season's going to play out. But everything is lining up for the Panthers. The Clemson game is at home. Miami, they get to play at home. North Carolina, they play at home. They have to go to Syracuse, which is kind of a rival game, but their schedule from here on out isn't too tough. They've got seniors on the offensive line, a really good senior tight end, a Heisman candidate at quarterback, some good receivers, and defensively a team that's improving after a really embarrassing loss against Western Michigan.
I have to say that they've come on the last couple of weeks. Jeff, I get you out of here on this prediction tomorrow.
So these matchups are always intriguing to me, because there are times where I think I've figured it out, like the game in 2017 that I did not have the right winner. And in 2018, I thought Pitt would bring more of a fight. I think Miami is playing better than the record indicates, but I believe in these matchups, I go with the quarterback. And while Van Dyke is a promising young player, Pickett's playing at an unbelievable level. I think Pitt wins this game by 2 touchdowns.
Okay. Jeff, I'm going to go 24-20 Canes, and I'll tell you why. The last 3 years, Miami's had their way in big moments, and they've come up with big stops. And Pickett hasn't done, outside the 17, hasn't done that well against Miami. I got to think a wet track, a sloppy track, a windy track. Running game's going to be critical. I think Miami can do that, and Pittsburgh's very good. But I think if the turnover chain comes out at least twice, I think Miami has a shot to win this ball game. And the last drive 2 years ago, the defense came up big when it had to. I could see that type of game tomorrow. Yes, Pickett is good, but I want to see, is Pittsburgh ready to take that next step? I just don't see it yet. So I'm going 24-20 Miami.
Well, normally I'd say let's put a beer on this, but since it's Halloween, maybe we'll put a Reese's cup on this.
Okay, Reese's cup. Okay. Yeah, so, one thing I didn't do, and allow me to indulge for a bit. Yeah. I didn't get to go to Primanti's, unfortunately. I did not get to, because the father of the church here, and I told him about, because he's from Pittsburgh, so he tells me, Danny, you have to go to Primanti's. Unfortunately, time constraints, I did not get to do that. But hopefully next time we come up there in 2 years, I'll make the trip up to Primanti's.
Well, make sure you look me up. I'll take you over there, and we'll share Primanti's. Just make sure, come hungry when you go to Primanti's.
I've been told this.
Come hungry.
I've been told that. Hey, Jeff, listen, thank you so much for coming on today. Enjoy the game tomorrow, and we'll talk again very soon.
Yeah, if you need anything, just let me know, Daniel. Take care, man.
Take care. You too.